Hey, this is Robert from DSP Plug. So moving back on to data flow, my video screen, as it were. In the way of my Mark III, well, it was just a fun toy, right? I guess I'll put together the Mark IV named something else. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a few really basic ideas. And I'm also going to discuss its potential and furthermore, how it can also protect your hearing and it can protect you against dementia as well. In just a second. Hello, this is Robert from DSP Plug. There's been ways of limiting. There's been ways of changing the volume level of audio. And when I created some plugin called the Mark III, it was just kind of based upon an old legend, as it were. And I threw some auto mastering in there I'd come up with pure math. But this pure math has a lot of potential. And I thought about that potential and what it could do, plausibly what it could mean. And I guess what it comes down to is this, is if it were ever some kind of standard, a real standard, like not just some, plugin, but if it were some kind of codec that was utilized mainstream in a big way, there are some things that are like it called limiting. There are some things like it called mastering, but not all of them really are math per se. They're not quick, plain math. And I tried to keep the pure math I was able to create to do this pretty simple. So it could be a codec then, but that's kind of across the board. And the reason why I say that is because there's this really interesting math called dBSPL. And dBSPL, you could say it's an aesthetic, I guess, but it opens up the potential for a lot of effects. And that in itself is interesting. There's also some math that it could do. It could certainly calculate a lot more, like, for instance, apps or programs that denoise could also take into account distance, then objects in a way. There could be a lot of things that were possible that had not been possible before with dBSPL, including some amazing Dolby effects. We're talking about audio, completely aural or neural audio. Crazy. You could hear a sound with this math, and it would sound like it was literally right beside you. It'd be like 3D glasses, like at Disney World or something, Disneyland. That'd be nuts. Kind of beyond me, though. I mean, it's not necessarily something I want to do, but I guess it's fun. I guess it is fun. It's a fun thing. Could be done. It's not necessarily what you want for Dolby, but you could do it for stuff. I think in the way of phones, they've actually gotten pretty close. But of course, dBSPL in general requires that there is a certain max, right? There's a max volume, and that's what this Mark III product I made can do, and you can set a max. So the reason dBSPL could work is that there is a max. And the reason it didn't work in the past is because with digital audio, we've had something called a wild peak. And the wild peak means is that the audio, when it's recorded, has peaks that go above what they should. And what that means is sometimes the integer math is a bit off when we're recording audio. And then there's extra ones and extra decimal points that get rounded up as integers because they get rounded up because of the errors in the math. Ultimately, and it's the truth. I work with audio. It means that there's never been a finite constant. And even my product, I'm saying that it could be real time because it is pure math. Even my product, ultimately, you got to wonder, is there some bass getting through? Because there might be some bass getting through after all. And that's always a challenge, making it faster, making it more streamlined, making the pure math even purer, so that it has the option and ability to affect everything live, right? And I actually came up with a process for that, and I don't know if it's always been done. What it is that you divide the signal into three. You divide the signal into three first, and then you do three iterations of the same function, and you additively reassemble the signal together. It would seem somehow that by taking the same signal three times, without a doubt, it actually does process the whole thing and belies some programmatic errors. You wouldn't have thought that. I would not have thought that either. There might actually be a technical term for that. And there's a reason that that works. It defies many conventions because it seems like some kind of trick or some kind of hack, but perhaps that might improve the Mark III or the Mark IV or whatever it's going to be called. Might improve its ability to do this real time, and that very well might affect the bass sig in its entirety. That would be quite exciting. But in the way of dBSPL math, we're talking about sound that could be beamed into you. What does that mean? Being beamed in? That's why this video is on the Stargate project. And the reason is, how does a policeman who is accessing his hardware that tells him that you're doing something illegal, like trying to murder yourself in your own house, how does he tell you to stop? Well, with this dBSPL stuff, you can literally throw sound through walls to a degree. And if the math were ever worked out, policemen or delivery people would in fact be able to send you a message, and it would get through your walls and it would sound as though it were right there. So all of those people who've been trying to ignore delivery men, I may have made your life advertently a living hell. But nonetheless, yeah, dBSPL, it's had a few uses. I'll get on that. I'll get on that. I've got to get the DSP plug site back up. That's very exciting. Very exciting. I'll try that. Now, in the how I'm going to construe this plugin is I don't know, rather than make it into something, some kind of interesting thing that has mid-side and all of this stuff. Maybe I'll just provide you with two little mastering boxes, so it's just a switch that you push. and then the switch would allow you to decide. So there would be three of them. One would be mastering to a dBfs level. The other would be mastering to an RMS level. And the other one would be mixing from switching between RMS and peak. So you could actually choose the balance between the two. And that would be super exciting for people who want to be able to, like, if you, let's say you were one of these video host people streaming online, it'd be nice to be able to select this through your TV's remote. So you press whether you want smooth audio or not, or sharp audio or peaks or what have you. It becomes a preference. It becomes a tool. But in a way of a third polish, like a polish, then I might actually consider using something called a cascade and run the filter three times. And then this cascade, I would basically create like a sawtooth cut that would cut away the top of audio, especially in the mids. And that would reduce the graininess, the harshness of it, because I can still volumize it to the same level. I would have to create some kind of project for that first, so as to show the function of it and then integrate that. Because ultimately, I think for people who have problems with dementia and deafness, that could become a standard for sure. Now, I'm not into devastating technologies. I'm not into like saying, being a naysayer and saying no, LUFS is not good enough. Now, I don't think it has anything to do with LUFS not being good enough. I think LUFS is still a really great system, and it can still affect the sound of audio. And frankly, the effect is quite nice. So to that end, I think what I'll do is I'll combine a bit of peak and a bit of RMS, and also LUFS. I'll create an LUFS version of that mastering solution so that you can actually choose the LUFS. But what that is going to mean is this. When the song first starts, because it is real time or a very low amount of milliseconds of latency as it starts, because it is real time, at first it's going to rely on a close estimate. And it can, I guess the plugin will either be able to guess or allow you to select where you want the maximum to be, so that when it gets started, LUFS has a chance to kick in, because LUFS, it's not instantaneous. Maybe that is the only solution to that predicament. That'd be pretty great. And I think overall that would be a really solid product. And maybe I could sell that. Maybe I could sell that version with the LUFS. Because no one is suggesting any standard is bad, but the problem, of course, is it's nice to use ultimately the peak dBfs to decide the max dBfs. And the reason is if all of our audio that we heard through machines was, to say, at some legal benchmark, let's say, or there was some legalities for it, and we were at minus 10 dBfs, or minus even 15 or minus 20 as our max, then our hearing would be protected. People don't understand that. And if I was to work out this sawtooth on some mathematical grade as well, because it would have to be a mathematical linear grade. And when I say linear, that means instead of doing something artificial that goes against the natural flow of the audio, it has to be some kind of percentile. Like it has to take quarter off the top of the sound. So that way it doesn't change the speed or timing of it. So that the flow of data is not any different, but it's still thinner. That would be a pretty exciting idea. So all in all, I've got my work set out for me, and I'm not so sure about the name now. Maybe I would call it, I don't know. What will I call it? Maybe I'll call it hmm, hmm, hmm. M M4. I don't know. I don't come up with this stuff. I don't script this stuff. I just say out loud what I want to say. But it's hard to think about them. I don't know, M4 or something like that. So as to break away from any other name, M4, that would be pretty good, right? M4, then an M5, then an M6. That might do. Okay, I'll get on that. This is Robert from DSP Plug, and enjoy my new product soon. Likely, most of them will be free and in a way of government standards for audio and for using either dBfs or RMS as the peak. It's nice that we've broken free of these wild peaks. And at some point, I might have the possibility of talking to a company who enables codecs for audio, so as to build this right into our existing technology, because that might be a pretty great idea. Bye bye.